Good morning and welcome to the Athletic NBA Daily. Coming up, we've got Kelly Iko here to talk about the Rockets, who were surging and not so surging anymore after losing to the Nuggets. We're going to be doing a game of something, nothing, or everything since Dave isn't here and we wanted to take over the show. Everybody, Zena, how you doing? Good morning to you. No, Dave, it feels a little strange here, but
I know
we're going to try to keep it similar to the vibes, right? Because we're bringing back a segment everybody loves, which is something, nothing, or everything. Let's recap this weekend by doing that. Okay. So the Cleveland Cavaliers have lost 4 of their last 5. They beat the Utah Jazz on Sunday, but that's no real great thing, if you will. Sure. That's not a feather in your cap. So they've lost 4 in a row outside of Sunday. They lost to the Magic, the Clippers, Kings, and Suns. Is that something, nothing, or everything?
I want to say it's nothing, only because I've seen teams have skids at the end of the year. And it's like, is this going to be an indication on the fact that this is a team that's had 12-game winning streaks 3 times this season, 15-game winning streaks 2 times this season? However, in those 4 games, there were a few things I noticed. Number one, the Cavs have struggled against perimeter physicality, particularly the Magic and the Clippers were giving it to their guards outside in terms of just bumping up against them. And Mitchell struggled. Garland struggled. And so very curious on that. Also, if Donovan Mitchell isn't producing, that offense looks suspect. So that's something to me. I'm looking at those 4 games, and that's something to me. What about you?
Yeah, I think it is something. I actually like the fact that they are dealing with this adversity. It's good to get punched in the mouth, you know, when you're a team that is winning and rolling like they were. It kind of feels like nothing can kind of make you feel anything, but losing these games, especially towards the later half of the season, it makes you rethink if you have everything figured out, especially for a young team like that that's heading into the playoffs. Don't want to get overconfident. Feel a little humbled. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see. The Cavs are fine. Don't worry about the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're all right. Okay, team that's trying to be all right is the Phoenix Suns. They are winners of 3 in a row. One of those wins against the Cavaliers. They also beat the Raptors and Bulls, which are, again, not the greatest wins, but still wins. If you're the Suns trying to get into that 10 seed in the play-in, they did. KD dropped 42 points.
Yes, he did.
Is that something, nothing, or everything? Are the Suns figuring things out?
I gotta say nothing. I'm like, Kevin Durant putting on a masterclass like that, as Devin Booker called it.
Yeah,
that's normal. Like, don't get me wrong. We cannot
regular.
It's not regular in the sense that it's not impressive. It's just like we've come to expect this out of Kevin Durant.
Right.
And so him putting on this masterclass to be able to beat the Cavs, them surging at the end of the year in a desperation move to get into the play-in, like, it's almost expected. Of course, Phoenix would try to put their last-ditch effort to try and get into the play-in and play at the level that we've all expected them to play all season. So I'm not going to say too much. I want to see what happens in the play-in. Are they able to get through those 2 kind of death matches and get into the playoffs? Then I'm like, all right, maybe it's something. But right now, Kevin Durant being amazing, surreal Kevin Durant, it feels weird to say nothing, but it's like, all right. I mean, this is who he is.
It's kind of expected, right? This is exactly what they're supposed to do against those teams.
We're spoiled like that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I think it is something just for the fact that they're playing their rookies again. Oso Ighodaro is finally playing back in the rotation. He played 44 minutes against Cleveland. Ryan Dunn also back in the rotation. And it's clear that their defense is better because of those guys.
Correct.
So I think it might be something. I don't think it's too much of something. I'm going to give it like a 25% something on the something meter. But this is something for sure. LeBron James back with the Los Angeles Lakers. He returned versus the Chicago Bulls. They didn't have the greatest game, though. The Lakers gave up 146 points to the Chicago Bulls. LeBron played 31 minutes, had 17 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists. Rui Hachimura also returned. So LeBron coming back. Zena, I'm assuming something, nothing, everything for the LA Lakers.
I'm going to say everything. Everyone knows what LeBron James brings in terms of a calmness out there on the floor. And even Lucas said this in the post game. Like, he knows, and even with him being the person that's been leading this defense without LeBron, he's been averaging 31 points. He's been putting up ridiculous performances, but even he knows that when LeBron James is out there, it's his team. There is a natural rhythm to the way that they play. He adds a little bit more poise for the Lakers overall. And so I think it's everything that LeBron is back, especially at this juncture in the season when the Lakers are trying to solidify their position in the playoffs, not play-in, particularly in the playoffs, and then avoid a matchup with OKC to enter the season, or to enter the playoffs.
Yeah, that 2 to 5 range and 6 range kind of for the playoffs right now in the West is the best playoff race there is for the next couple of weeks between the Nuggets, Rockets, Lakers, maybe even the Warriors creeping up in there, depending on Steph Curry's health. We'll see what happens there. But this game versus Chicago just felt like a team that was just getting back to full strength and was getting used to the fact that they were playing a different style of basketball. Now you insert two guys who are so important to what they do. There's going to be a bit of a feel out process. I'm not worried at all by the Lakers losing this game to the Bulls, but I kind of want to talk about it from Chicago's side too. So the Bulls are 9th in the East now. They've been in that 9-10 for pretty much the entire year. They love that play-in basketball. And Modest Buzelis, their rookie, who, by the way, if you didn't know, the Bulls broadcast is trying to use Lil Buzi Vert as his nickname. Yes.
No.
Let's make it happen. Yes, let's make it happen. I like it.
Know that.
I had to give credit to that because I thought that was awesome. He had his career high. He had 31 points against the Lakers. A lot of Bulls balled out. Kobe White had 36 points. Josh Giddey basically almost had a quadruple double, 15 points, 10 rebounds, 17 assists, and 8 steals. So the Bulls... And this is a little bit different of a something, nothing, or everything, because there's no take here. But this Bulls team, a lot of their fans always want them to tank, to bottom out, and rightfully so. To be honest with you, I think they have a case for the fact that they've had some bad decision-making situations going on for that team over the last 3 or 5 seasons, right?
Sure.
But does them being fun, is that something, nothing, or everything? Can a team just be fun, Zena?
I think it's everything because of the dog days of the season right now. Like, they
March
gave
basketball,
us right? It's March basketball, which is so hilarious because obviously it's the opposite in the college sphere. March Madness is a real thing, but right now, March for the NBA is always a drag. And the way that Chicago is playing is the complete opposite of that. I mean, Lil Buzi Vert is so apt. I hate it, but I love it at the same time. I mean, Modest Buzelis has a 40-inch vertical at 6'10". He is a high flyer. He plays above the rim, but he's also like this shot creator. He handles the ball well. He moves really well in transition. And I love, my favorite part of this story is that he is a hometown product. Like, the Bulls were in his backyard growing up. And so it's really dope to see him put on this performance for his hometown team, especially alongside these other kind of flashy players. I don't want to say kind of, very flashy players, and Kobe White, and then Josh Giddey, who I think everyone that watched him at OKC knew what he was capable of, but wasn't sure if it would translate to Chicago. And it absolutely has. In his last 10 games, he's had 9 double doubles, 2 of which were triple doubles. He's just constantly playmaking, constantly finding a way to like get the Bulls offensively going. And so I think it's everything right now. As a fan, I love watching them. It's fun.
Yeah. I think it's something, just because, like, if you're a Bulls fan, you have to be looking forward to watching this team play. They're fun. If you turn on a Bulls game, like if we do League Pass rankings, I would probably have the Bulls in my top 10 because they're just fun to watch offensively. They run like crazy. They're one of the best transition teams in the league. And to your point, Buzelis is a big part of that because he's this athlete and he can utilize that athleticism in transition. He's also great at driving the ball. He needs to get stronger. That's the one thing about Buzelis, but he'll get there. Very intriguing rookie. He'll get there. Okay. The one game from Sunday night that was awesome, which was the Clippers losing to the Oklahoma City Thunder. No Jalen Williams, no Chet Holmgren for OKC. They now move to 59-12, one win away from 60-12. They've never had a 60-win season. That is, to me, that's crazy. To me.
Yeah, that's everything. That's huge for the franchise.
That's everything. Absolutely, it is. Want to talk about the Clippers side, though, because before this loss, they had won 5 in a row. Mm-hmm. Kawhi, in his last 11 games, is averaging 24 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, doing so efficiently. And Zena, I kind of feel like the boy who cried wolf here, because every season I go in saying, am I going to believe in the LA Clippers? But are they going to stay healthy? Yep. And I have thought, oh, well, Kawhi is back. The Clippers are back every single year. And I'm at the point where I've just accepted the fact that I'm the boy who cried wolf. And I have to ask you this because I think it's something. I think the fact that the Clippers are playing good basketball recently is something. And the fact that it's leading to the playoffs and they're fighting for the 6th seed in the West and all that type of stuff, that is something to me. Yeah, their defense is something to me.
Absolutely.
I want to believe in this team, but the health and the injuries hold me back. Do you believe? Is it something, nothing, or everything?
No, it's something. It absolutely is something. Yeah. And I think you're absolutely right. The aspect of Kawhi, particularly his health, is huge.
Yep.
However, he spent a significant more time out this year being very cognizant about this particular portion of the season, being able to come back and making sure that he was ready, right? His team, the Clippers, did a phenomenal job of blocking out the noise of what's going to happen with Kawhi and not sending him out there too early. And so now you're seeing a Kawhi that looks healthy, that's moving really well, that's fighting well against pressure, which you saw. Yeah. OKC was incredibly physical with them on Sunday night. Yeah. And, Kawhi in that high post area, was really maneuvering pretty well around that. And that's where I was a little shaky of what's those turnaround fader jumpers going to look like with 2 people trapping him or trying to, swarm him. And he looked really good. So I do agree with you in that this has been a factor. What I'll say is Kawhi looks really good, but there's also other elements to the Clippers that have elevated. Yeah. Zubats, to me, is number 1. Zubats' game, particularly the connection he has with James Harden, but his game in general has elevated to another level. You add in Bogdan Bogdanović, who's been phenomenal for them since the trade from Atlanta. Great fill-in for Terrence Mann. And then you add in the defense of Chris Dunn. And there's all of these factors and elements coming together to play that I don't know if the Clippers have had recently. I mean, yes, Amir Coffey was shooting before, and, Derrick Jones Jr. has been a great high-flying alley-oop type of player, and they also can hit the wing 3. But I feel like all of these elements about their defense and their capacity for offense is on another level this year. And that, especially now with Kawhi's back, and I feel pretty confident about it. So I think it's something. Yeah,
the defense is interesting because they were just switching against OKC tonight and living with the consequences. And that's a team that you throw in Nick Batum. You mentioned some of their other wings. You're fine with Dunn switching on anybody, and he did a great job against SGA tonight. So Clippers surging for sure. By the way, it wasn't 60 wins for OKC. They've won 60. They've never won more than 60. So if they get to 61, that's historic for them. A good win for them tonight. Okay, coming up, we're going to talk to Kelly Iko about the Rockets, who lost to the Nuggets with Jamal Murray and DeAndre Jordan. Well, Zena, the NBA Daily curse struck again. It was, and I'm sorry, Kelly, the Houston Rockets, we thought we were going to talk about a 10-game winning streak here, but they lose to the Denver Nuggets without Nikola Jokic. It was the Jamal Murray and DeAndre Jordan show. What happened tonight in this game, do you think, that kind of forced the Rockets to lose this one?
I think if you boil it down, it comes down to a older, experienced team like the Denver Nuggets that have been to the NBA Finals, that have been in those championship, settings, understanding what it takes to get a victory, in a high pressure situation. And, the Rockets, obviously everyone knows that they like to control the offensive glass. Yeah. They like to attack teams in transition. So what Denver did was they were more efficient with their second chance opportunities. They outscored them 20-10 in those second chance opportunities. And in transition, Denver has been one of I think they're top 5 all year in transition, and they outscored Houston 14 points to 0. So their defense was elite in being able to get back and match Houston's physicality and speed, which came at a surprise, obviously, because this is a Rockets team that had been playing arguably the best basketball in the NBA over the last 2 weeks. Now, granted, over that 9-game winning streak, they had beaten teams that were all under 500. But in terms of not being able to play down to your competition and trying to take care of business while you're trying to, in a tight seeding race for the number 2 seed in the Western Conference, they look like the team that, were in full control of their future. And then after tonight, now it looks like it's going to be anyone's game for the number 2 seed.
I'm kind of laughing at like all the win streaks that have happened in the West have been against teams that weren't that great. Right. It's like, how much did we really learn? But you talk about, the transition aspect, and particularly the Rockets wanting to control the offensive glass. I'm looking at that double big lineup. Of course, that helps them in that capacity, but could have been a hindrance to them going the other way. How much do you think that double big lineup with Şengün and Steven Adams in the middle was a help or a hindrance?
So I think tonight it might have been a hindrance, and just because, Denver almost played into the narrative that they're going to embrace playing slower. They're going to embrace taking more ownership of these possessions. And the whole point of the double big lineup in Steven Adams and Alp is to double down on physicality, but also control the glass. And, it's hard to imagine that in 2025, DeAndre Jordan was the one that was being the enforcer, at both ends of the floor. But, for the Rockets that don't have that Jamal Murray type or a go-to guy, they have to find advantages wherever they can. And one of those in-game advantages is a double big lineup, even if you want to go as far as calling it the 3-man with Jabari Smith, if they want to go supersize, in the front court. But it's all about trying to find advantages. I just think that tonight they ran into a much smarter team, a much more prepared team in Denver that's understanding where exactly they want to go to over these last 10 or 12 games. And the Rockets just, got caught slipping.
Yeah. It feels like youth is obviously a huge part of this Rockets season, but it feels like people are dismissing them and their postseason chances because of that youth. How do you think they look at that internally?
Well, if you're around these guys, that their ego is through the roof, and they're a very prideful bunch. They embrace that, underdog mentality. Having been where they came from over the last couple of years, just to be in this position alone is enough to be a success story. Yeah. But in terms of, actually trying to make a deep run and trying to see yourself, the Western Conference Finals, the second round, I think it's going to have to take them embracing defeats and going through these lessons against teams like Denver, against teams like the Lakers, against teams like Golden State, to understand that, while they are a very good team, there's a difference in terms of, having that go-to guy like a Jamal Murray that we saw had 39 points on efficient shooting. Yeah. And then you have guys in Houston where you preach this equal opportunity offense, which is great, from, October to March. But we've seen time and time again, the teams that go far, they have a hierarchy. They have an understanding. They have an ecosystem, no pun intended. They understand what needs to happen on any possession to get the best shot possible. And until they get to that point, or until they either go trade for a guy that can be that alpha, or just find someone to take that leap, you're going to have nights like this. And then, come next month, whenever the playoffs roll around, they might be, a first round out, but it might even if it's a 6 or 7 game series, I just don't think they have enough as currently constructed to make a deep run.
Ooh, you hit on 2 things we want to talk about. One, the playoffs, but also who they could get this offseason. I'll let you ask that question. I want to ask about this playoff month coming up, and particularly those teams that have the hierarchies, because when I'm looking at the 6 to 7, 6, 7, 8. The Warriors have a system. I think the Clippers have a system. They have veterans too, right? Right. What's a team in your as you're looking at that standings? who's a team that the Houston Rockets absolutely should not want to face off against?
Golden State. whatever you can do to, I think they're my
Steph
dark
Curry
horse
versus the Rockets, man.
They're my dark horse. There's something about Steph, something about Jimmy Butler in the playoffs. I don't think you want to get those guys in this building again because of the trauma he's given Rockets fans over the years. And now you add in Jimmy Butler, who's from Tomball, by the way, was down the road, a guy that can come in and who's tried and tested in those playoff games. I don't think you want to see them at all. I don't want, if I'm Houston, I don't think you want to see the Lakers at all either, because that dual system of Luka and LeBron is just like trying to construct a defense around it. It can be a scary thing to approach. Even teams like Minnesota, like we've seen Anthony Edwards and what he's done in the playoffs. And then you add a Randall, you add a Naz Reid, who the Rockets have historically struggled against. There are a lot of teams that, if I'm the Rockets, I don't want to face in the playoffs, because this is a numbers game. This is a matchup game. And you've seen over the years, these older experienced teams, they have this gamesmanship where they'll rest guys, they'll sit guys out as a means to kind of, figure out where they want to be after the dust settles. So I think for the Rockets now, if I'm them and I'm going to be honest with myself, I know there are at least 4 or 5 teams I don't want to see in the first round. So if you're trying to make a deep run, you might have to go the gamesman route.
Yeah, I was about to say 4 or 5 teams is a lot. You're gonna have to try to gauge that. I mean,
the only team. If I'm them, I'm only looking at Memphis.
Right? Yeah,
Memphis is the only one that's probably a gimme. Like I don't want. If I'm them, I don't want to see Kawhi and James. James being back home, it's a lot of things that can go wrong for them. Really
I completely agree. Look, I mean, the season is already a success. To your point, like you've said it, this is the playoff series, and being potentially a 2 seed is just the cherry on top. They're going into a really important summer, though. Potentially re-signing Fred VanVleet. There's obviously the rumors of potentially chasing after Devin Booker or Kevin Durant, owning those Suns picks. How much does this next month of playoff basketball determine how aggressive they are in the summer for going out and maybe making an upgrade?
I think a lot. I think this is the summer. I think this is the playoff run that's going to determine everything, because if these last 3 or 4 years have been about collecting information and seeing, what sticks, what needs to stay, what needs to be, molded or mended, I think it's clear, anybody watching this team, that they need a go-to guy in the half court. Right. And the Phoenix connection has been there all year long because of the leverage that they have over their future in terms of their picks and everything. And, the rumors about Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and those are guys that, they've looked at for a while. Right. But, it all comes down to what they do in the playoffs, because if you're looking at it long term, you mentioned the Fred thing. I think from everything I've heard, Fred wants to be here for a long time. So if you have that sorted out, now you're looking at where do you want to go in terms of, you have a logjam at the forward position, you have a logjam at guard. You have to, at some point, figure out who is that guy, and the list is short. Like for a long time, it was Devin Booker or Donovan Mitchell. As far as their prime targets, but obviously Donovan's not going anywhere because he's in a great situation. Yeah. The only thing that you can look at is what happens with Phoenix. And this is why the playoffs are so fascinating, because there's a situation where, Phoenix could sneak into that play-in somehow, some way, maybe get the 8th seed, the 7th seed, and play Houston in round 1. And now that would be a fascinating storyline because of the implications for the future. But, if I'm the Rockets, I'm definitely keeping them, on speed dial, because, like I said, you have leverage over their immediate future, because, everything has gone to SHIT, for Phoenix this season. So, I think just in terms of that leverage and that flexibility, they should be in a good spot to assess what happens after the playoffs and come back to the table and figure out the best way to move forward.
Yeah, I feel like it won't be the last time we talk about the Houston Rockets this summer. Right. That's probably what's going to happen. Sure. Go read Kelly Eco at The Athletic. Always great work. Kelly, thank you so much. Zena, thank you very much. Thank you to Andrew Schlecht for hopping on with us as always. Thank you for listening to The Athletic NBA Daily. As always, we'll see you guys next time. Peace out.